Hey, my name is Cassie and this is Dose of DIY. I know that it's been a bit, but this last project took me a long time. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm literally just gonna keep bugging you, so you might as well just subscribe. Like, just do it. Just do it. To all my subscribers, I really appreciate that you guys subscribe to my channel. It means the world to me. And if that sounded sarcastic, it wasn't meant to. I just have the worst resting bitch face. So, anyways, I have a new project. Have you ever seen those cool rock accent walls?
Yep.
But can I afford that?
Nope.
Do I still want it?
Yep.
Will price stop me?
Nope.
So I found a way to bring my dream cave-looking rock accent wall into my home. Some of you guys are like, are you crazy? Why would you bring a rock wall that looks like a cave into your home? So studies actually show that the more nature that you bring into your home, you are more likely to be happy and reduce stress and anxiety. So that's why there's a big trend in interior design and architecture to try to bring those like natural elements into the home. So if this like particular project isn't for you, don't worry, you should still subscribe anyway, because I have plenty more projects that I have in the works that I want to be doing to incorporate more nature into my home to make me happier. Okay, step one is to like prep the wall. So like mine, it was like this, and then I got bored of this, so I had to take down the wallpaper, all of that. And then there's some areas that I sanded it a little bit, and I wiped it down to make sure that like, there's no dust or anything. Otherwise, the plaster that I'm going to be trying to put up, it's not going to stick that well. Step two is, all right, let's like get the mold or like, the rock shape or whatever of how we're going to do this. And at first I had no idea how I was going to do this. I was just kind of winging it. So I just tried and experimented with a couple of different things. After a couple fails, I realized like if I just took like a piece of tinfoil and I was like, I can just like use that and create something that kind of looks like a rock. And then on top of that, I had these plaster cloths. So it has like these like holes in it, and it looks like there's like a little bit like this powder in here that's plaster. So it's kind of like gauze that has plaster in it. I would take this, I would fully submerge it into water. So I want this really wet. Then I'd place it on top of that mold that I made with the tinfoil. And then to make it look more like rock, I would gently try to let it, so try to get it to like be in all the little crevices of the tinfoil. You let it dry, and then I would remove it from the tinfoil molding. Then you'd have a mold left. And I happen to have one left that I did not use. I just made like a bunch of these. So a lot of this was me trying to figure out, is there any way I can even make this work? I didn't do a lot of like the other planning that I wish I would have done. So if I were to go back, what I would have done is like add an idea of what I wanted the rocks to look like, because I didn't really have an idea. I was just kind of winging it. But if you go to like my Pinterest, I have a bunch of these like cool rock accent walls that I have pinned. And so if I were to do it again, I would have looked at like all those pictures and like picked, okay, what kind of rock style design do I want it to look like? And then I would have tried to make molds that look like that. This next step is like the placement. Where do you want all these molds to go? What is gonna make it look like a rock? I used frog tape, which I prefer over painter's tape because it's like more sticky. And I tried to place them on different places on my wall. And I try to like look, okay, what looks the best? And try to put it in the design that looked good cohesively. What mold would look good next to this one, and like where would there be empty spaces to try to make it look like, okay, what looks the most like a rock? Okay, so after you figure out where everything is and if you like that placement and everything, now it's time to use plaster of Paris to attach it onto the wall. What is plaster of Paris? Great question. Quick setting gypsum plaster consisting of a fine white powder, calcium sulfate, hemihydrate, which hardens when moistened and allowed to dry. It's also given that name because of its preparation from the abundant gypsum found near Paris. Okay, great. What the hell is plaster? Great question. Plaster is building material used for protective or decorative coatings of walls and ceilings and for molding and casting decorative elements. When you're going to be working with plaster of Paris, so it's pretty messy. It's like dusty stuff. So I have a full turp out and everything, and luckily I own a shop vac, so that made like cleaning up so much easier. So I definitely recommend using a shop vac if you have it. And if you don't, then I will also link that in the materials for you. But anyways, so I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I have never done a single project with plaster of Paris before. Okay, I have my plaster of Paris. Let's figure out one. How do you mix plaster of Paris? So this is something that I learned the hard way. It says to put 2 parts plaster of Paris, 1 part water. And I would put 2 parts plaster of Paris and then pour in the water. And apparently when you do that, you create more air bubbles. So what you're actually supposed to do is put the water in first, and then you put the plaster of Paris in, but you put it in a tiny bit at a time, and then you let it sink in, and then you put in more. To be honest, at the end, I wasn't even paying attention to the amounts that I was putting in. I was just putting in a little bit more until I got to kind of like a very thick milkshake. That was the consistency that I was going for when I was attaching these to the wall. I removed the tape from one side, and then I would put the plaster of Paris on that one side and slap it over the edges and kind of seal it then onto the wall. All right, so after you've attached all of them, then what we want to do is then go over it. So now you have all of these like attached to your wall, but if you look close, you see how you can see like these holes on it and stuff? Obviously that doesn't look great. I wanted to also go over all of it and try to make sure it's kind of like a similar consistency, trying to get like plaster all over, and then sometimes I put like a little like thick areas of plaster to try to make it look a bit like more textured rocks in certain areas. So I wanted to go over all of these with a thin layer of plaster. Instead of of making it like a thick milkshake consistency, I switched over and I tried to make it like basically a melted milkshake consistency to then like brush it over. You're gonna pour the water in here and then you're just gonna pour less of the plaster of Paris in, because you know how I said to put a little bit in at a time, so you're just gonna put less in until when you're stirring it, you're like, oh, okay, this feels like a melted milkshake sort of consistency. I had the one that I was mixing in, I had a separate cup then next to it that I was putting the brush that I was using in while I was mixing a new batch, so it didn't get super hard. And then you wanna let all of that dry. The nice thing about this project is you don't have to go all out and try to make it like perfectly smooth or anything, because this is meant to be like a rock. It's not perfect, there's like imperfections. If I could see any brush strokes or there's like anything that would bug me, I was trying to like just sand that down a little bit. So one of the most important parts of painting is the prep work. If you've seen my like spray painting video, if you haven't, you can look for this thing up this corner. But I was terrified that I was gonna get it all over the place like I did when I was spray painting. So I again made like an extra crime scene and everything was covered with plastic or whatever. Like I was like, there's no paint gonna get out. This is my house, I'm the boss. Now it is time to finally paint it. So when it does come time to paint, it is your option. You can either do like a paint sprayer or spray paint, or you can just do traditional like paint with like a paintbrush. And I think the only thing that I would be cautious about is that with a paintbrush, it's gonna be kind of a pain in the butt because there are so many cracks and crevices in this, and so it would take a long time. Versus I use my paint sprayer. It was so quick, I did it within 3 minutes, so I highly recommend it. I actually just created a video on how to use a beautiful new paint sprayer. So I'll go into depth about like prepping to paint and then how to use this. So if you want to use a paint sprayer, this was my very first time using it and I loved how it worked. It was very intuitive. I loved everything about it. If you want to see my experience, then you can look for this thing up in this corner and check out that video. I got it for like $150. That I know that it's not like an easy fee. What I do actually is I have an Amazon wish list and I put all of like the new toys and stuff that I want for like my birthday, Christmas, and everything. And so I actually ask people to get these things for me. But I do know that some of the like the Home Depots or Lowe's and stuff, they have like some stuff that you could rent. So if you don't want to buy one but you want to use it, so that is also another option. So the last step is like if there's any touch-ups that you need to make to your wall. So for example, when I painted it, there were some of them that I felt like looked more like wrinkles as opposed to the rock. And so like those, I would put plaster on both sides of those like little wrinkles to make it look wider so it looked more like a rock. I also got feedback that like rock sort of illusion is kind of ruined when I can see like that very square corner. And I was like, oh duh. So then I made a couple more molds that I put around the corners that were like big rock shapes, and that helped make it look like one full rock all the way around, and that made it look a lot better. So I was able to just put it on top of the paint that I used because I used a matte paint. If you're gonna use like a glossy paint, you might have to sand it down or use a glosser or something to get it to stick on again. The nice thing about it is it's kind of like as if it were like a sculpture or like artwork, and you can mold it and change it and continue to change it and evolve it to become what you want it to be. Like now I absolutely love how it looks. So that is how you make this rock wall. Who's ready for the recap? Ooh, ooh. Alright, so first you're going to prep your wall and take down everything if you have any wallpaper up or anything like that, and then you're going to thin it down if you need to, and then wipe it down so that there's no dust on it, so that your plaster or anything that you're going to put on it can then stick to it. And then you're going to make your mold, so you're going to form your tin foil to be whatever rock shape that you want it to be, and then you're going to get your plaster cloth and you're going to dip it in water and then place it on top, and then make sure you like press it down so it has all those little crevices in it so that it looks like a real rock. And then from there you're going to keep putting those sheets up and you're going to rearrange it into an order to make sure that like it looks like the rock that you want it to look like. And then you're going to use the plaster of Paris to make it like a milkshake consistency. You're going to use that to patch those molds onto your wall, and then after that you're going to make a melted milkshake consistency plaster of Paris mixture and paint over it. Get rid of all the holes on those molds and then give it like a nice consistency all around. And then you're going to prep it for paint, and then you're going to paint it, and then if you need to, you can do any adjustments. And that is all there is to it. Whew, that was a mouthful. All right. So if you do not love my wall, again, I have so many more ways that I'm going to try to incorporate nature into my home, because we know from studies that having nature in your home improves your happiness, your wellness, it reduces your anxiety, and it reduces your stress. And life is hard, so we can all use a little bit of stress relief in our home. I have so much more on my sleeve, and hopefully if you do not like this one, you'll like one of my other projects. And stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed yet, I don't know why. I guess you're gonna have to see one of my other nature ones, but you definitely should. And to all my subscribers, I just want to say thank you. Like, I appreciate you guys so much. So